Good afternoon, Chair Burbick. It's 12 o'clock noon. Are we ready to start? Okay. I've been told that we don't have a quorum yet, so we're going to wait one more minute. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Juanita Garcia Seeger. I work with Pima County Department of Transportation with the Maintenance and Operations Division. I'm here to assist you today as the PTAC meeting coordinator. I'm your second host, actually. Annabelle will be joining us momentarily. Before we begin, please allow me to provide some general ground rules to those of us who are online, and I welcome you for joining us. Please turn on your video camera so that we can see you. And during the county staff presentations, we ask that all audio be turned off so that we can provide the best recording for the record. If we experience technical difficulties, please send a message via the chat, and we will be doing our best to make sure that you join us back. And during the call to the audience, virtual participants will need to raise a hand to be acknowledged when speaking. When addressing the committee, please start by stating your name, address, testing on a piece of equipment. For those of you in-house, I'd like to present you the meeting owl. We ask that you please refrain from having side conversations because Mr. Owl is picking up everything you say. Essentially, we are hot mic. It will be confused. It takes up every voice that it hears. So please allow a few seconds for our voice to be picked up so that the camera can rotate to you and acknowledge that you're here in the room. We ask you for your patience. This is our first hybrid meeting. And now, Chair Berbert, I turn it over to you.
To the meeting, the first one to be live in about 2.5 years. With that, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I've asked John Burnell to lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Okay, Annabelle, we're not going to skip roll call. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Pima County Transportation Advisory Committee. My name is Annabelle Valenzuela. Today is Tuesday, April 26th. The time is 12:06, and we will start with roll call. John Winchester. Albert Letzkes. Dan Ekstrom. Melissa Brown Dominguez. Charlene Robinson. Lucretia Free. Tom Berezny.
Present.
Frank Santa Cruz.
Here.
Ed Berbert.
Present.
John Burnell.
Here.
Tom McGovern.
Here.
Ramon Valadez. We have a quorum for the record. The absent members are Dan Ekstrom, Charlene Robinson, Lucretia Free, Ramon Valadez. Thank you.
Thank you, Annabelle. Let's go ahead to the action, and I hope all of you have had a chance to read the minutes of the prior meeting, which were really well done. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Okay. Any comments before we take action? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Okay, that is a good example of a little bit of delay related to the owl, which is that little gray piece, right about a foot high there off to the left. Anyway, just be patient with that. I'm just repeating what Juanita said. Okay, let's go to Matt Sierra's the San Joaquin pavement treatment testing update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Sierras. I'm a division manager with Pima County Department of Transportation Maintenance Operations Division. Today I'll be providing an update on the pavement treatment testing program. Start off with the brief overview and then go into a summary of our findings and then conclude with wrap up. Before I get started, though, I'd like to just ask that you please bear with me. I'm taking over for Robert Johnson, who recently retired, so I'm getting caught up to speed with all the information, the data. So as I will continue to get caught up to speed, I look forward to finding more research and data and sharing our findings with you. So please bear with me while I get caught up, but we'll get there, I assure you, and we'll work through this together to find out how this treatment takes place and unfolds for us. So closer, yeah, sure thing. Is that better? Okay. Okay, brief overview, the San Joaquin pavement treatment testing program started in December 2018. At the time, the estimated PCI was a 30. It's 4.3 miles between Old Ajo Highway, on San Joaquin Road, of course, between Old Ajo Highway and Milky Way Drive, as you can see on the map up there on the screen. There was 13 pavement sections and 2 surface treatments that were done. Infrastructure management systems completed pavement condition surveys in December 2019, August 2020, and March 2021. They'll be scheduled to come back and do additional testing later on this year. Each test section provided a PCI used to model pavement performance. Although we are still early stages of the program, we have determined that some treatments will be eliminated from further consideration because they have already dropped below 80 PCI, which falls short of our goal to have every road with the average PCI within the Pima County. So observation 1, which you'll see up here on the screen, is test section 15 is 1-inch green asphalted concrete overlay with fiber over existing pavement. This started off as 100, and in the very short time frame, it has already dropped to a 78, as you can see. Kind of hard to tell, but the red line is the expected performance, and the green line is the adjusted performance. So you can see currently it has dropped down to a PCI of 78. Next slide, please. Observation 2, which is test section 7, consists of a fog seal, chip seal class 1, pulverized, recompact 6 inches of existing pavement and subgrade. This too has also fallen to a PCI of 79, which is below our anticipated 80 that we would like to achieve, and therefore will be continued for further consideration as well. Next slide, please. Excuse me. Which is test section 11, consists of a fog seal, double chip class 1, pulverized and recompact 6 inches with 2 pounds of cement per square feet. This has dropped to a 75 and will also be eliminated from further discussion. We do have some good news. Our 4th observation today is, to date, the best value for road repair of failed local road is found in a 2-inch overlay, which is PAG 2, over existing pavement. As you can see, that's holding at a 97. In addition, we found so far that a 2-inch mill and fill of PAG 2 over existing pavement also is doing very well, which is holding at a 98. So in closing, it's still very early in the evaluation, but we have already learned some valuable information. As I mentioned, treatments have fallen below a PCI of 80 will not be considered further because they do not provide a good return on investment. To date, the 2-inch overlay and the 2-inch mill and fill are doing great, which is reassuring because that's been an industry standard for years now. Like I mentioned, there'll be some additional PCI evaluation coming up later this fall. So we'll find out more information and we'll continue to update as we move forward. Before I conclude my presentation, I would like to point out that on the bottom of the screen there is a website identified. If you would click on that information, that'll take you to the information for the San Joaquin pavement test program. There you'll be able to find more detailed information regarding each specific treatment and their current PCI, in addition to other information for your review. If you, during the time, want to take review that information, and if you have any questions or would like further information, my email is also up there. Please feel free to reach out to me via email, and I'll be happy to get back to you with any information that I can find for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions before he leaves the podium? Yes, John.
Go ahead, I think we had Tom.
Oh, Tom's
John, I
on?
think we tied, but
Oh, okay.
thanks a lot, thanks a lot, Matt. So just to verify, the 2-inch mill and fill that's performing the best so far, that's what we're using in the existing road repair program, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're getting the best bang for our buck with that treatment.
Yes.
All right, thanks.
I guess I had a similar question, because on our local roads, especially, I'm thinking the older subdivisions that maybe had 4 inches of ABC and a double chip seal, are we putting 2 inches of asphalt on those, or have we, has that been our plan? Okay.
Yes.
All right, great, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there any other questions? If not, this concludes my, oh, yes, sir.
Yes, I think Tom has one. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, Tom Governor. I have my hand up. I'm not sure if you have the ability to see when I put it up on the web. But I do have a question for Matt. Is it expensive to observe these individual sections? That is, does it cost a lot of money to inspect and run a PCI for each of those?
To be honest, sir, I'm not sure of the exact dollar amount. I think it's reasonable. It's relative. It's not too expensive. I can reach out for that information and get back to you. I don't have that offhand. I apologize, but
That's fine. The reason I ask is because it's so early in this experiment, I guess, and it seems like the more data you can get, the better. And you're eliminating from observation at least one of these that dropped from, to 79. I don't think it started all that high. I think it started in mid-80s or something. But it seems like it's too early to stop measuring these individual sections. I'd like to recommend that you continue them at least through the 5-year period to see what the curve actually looks like. You only have 3 points of this.
I understand, and we can do that. And I'd like to just point out, when we do the PCI evaluation, we're not just doing it specifically for that test strip. It's when we do the entire county. We're evaluating our roads annually for our pavement preservation. This is being done at that point. And while they're out there doing the San Joaquin, they would just go ahead and be evaluated, and we'll record the PCI, and we can continue. That's not a problem.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd like to maybe on an annual basis see that report. That would be great. Are there pictures, by the way, on the web page for the treatment test?
Yes, there is.
Great. Thanks.
You're welcome. Do I have any other questions?
Thank you, Matt.
This concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Okay, let's go to Michelle Montanino and get our update on the road pavement program, which has been going pretty darn well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Michelle Montanino. I am the Construction Monitoring Division Manager for Pima County DOT, and I will provide you with a brief update on where we stand with our fiscal 22 pavement program. So far, we have 5 of our milling and paving projects complete. New this month is the completion of Central Low Volume, which was the Butterfield Business District and some other area local roads. We also have the Board of Supervisors District 1B, which was in the, I guess, north of Ina area. They are doing their final punch list items right now, so that is wrapping up this month. Our surface treatments, our 2 projects for surface treatments are now complete, both the crack seal and the surface treatments from Cactus Asphalt. Cactus Asphalt is out there this week, finishing up the final striping and putting down the RPMs. And then 3 of our curb ramp projects are complete. In construction, we still have 3 curb ramp projects. Countryside area curb ramps, the south of CDO curb ramps, and the north of CDO curb ramps. All of these are furiously trying to finish. We have run into some delays with the concrete shortage that is currently going on in the area. But everybody's adjusting. We're keeping very close eye on those schedules so that we can coordinate those with the paving projects that are following behind them. Several of the subdivisions in those packages have been closed out, which provides the opportunity for that paving to begin. In construction on the paving side, we have several new projects to mention. We have the Cardinal Estates in Mission Ridge. We have Casas Adobes in Wildwood. We have the Manzanita Terrace, North Point and Raintree, and then Green Valley also started this month. Got some photos for you this time. Here are some of the concrete projects. Just wanted to draw attention to some of the unique stuff. For instance, the bottom right corner of the screen, you can see where we opted to do a driveway apron instead of curb ramps. That way it provides a continuous level surface for pedestrians versus having to go up and down through that alleyway. Here are a couple of photos from the Board of Supervisors, District 1 and 3. This is a granite project for milling and paving. And then here is Board of Supervisors, Districts 1A, also a milling paving project, and this one's from K&G. We had several new projects advertised since the last time we met. The first one is Summer Haven. It was 2 inches of mill, pave, and some pavement overlay up in the Summer Haven district, or the Summer Haven community. It is in Board of Supervisors District 4. It was a jock contract, and our engineer's estimate was $1.4 to $1.5 million. We did have the bid opening, and unfortunately, none of the contractors could meet the schedule that we had advertised this with of June 30th for completion. We asked them if they were not going to provide us with the bid to provide us with reasoning. And the reasonings that we got back were concrete shortages, asphalt plant availability, trucking, just general kind of saturation of the market. So we also advertised the Countryside Vista. This is a 2-inch mill and overlay up in the Countryside neighborhood, 1.3 to 1.4 million with 2.47 miles of local roads. This one is supposed to be opening this evening. And then across the way, directly opposite that, is the other Countryside package, which is 2 inches of mill, 2 inches of overlay, 1.8 to 1.9 million with 3.83 miles of local roads. That one is opening tomorrow night. So we will have to wait and see where we end up with those. Our intention is, though, that anything that does not bid out this time revised dates to provide them with a little longer construction time, knowing the ramifications of the market out there. And those dollars from this year's budget will be moved forward into fiscal year 23 to cover those expenses so that they will not eat into the fiscal year 23 program. Kind of program status by the numbers. Here's an update on where we at. As you notice, everything is out of the package preparation column and now into the advertised or awarded status. We've got lots of things going on in the construction side, and that completion number is slowly creeping up in just about every category. And there's a project status by the dollars. Obviously, our original budget was $85.5 million, but with the escalation in construction costs and material costs, that has been exceeded this year. But luckily, due to the availability of HURF funding, we were able to fund the additional project costs through our operating budget. And then coming soon, we are putting the finishing touches on our fiscal year 23 program. So that should be coming out in the next week or two. So stay tuned for that. Next month, we will have additional presentation on that fiscal year 23 program. As always, I want to remind everybody of the pavement preservation map that's out there that shows the status of the different construction projects, where we're at with those, and what roads have already been completed up to this point. And then here's my contact information. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me directly. And that concludes my formal presentation. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them at this time.
Mr. Chair.
Tom?
Okay, as far as the Summer Haven goes, Michelle, and
Yes,
thanks
sir.
for the presentation. What's going to happen if these bids can't be met by, or the construction can't be finished by June 30th? Does that designated pot of money go into something that may be completed by the end of June, or how are we going to deal with that?
So because of where the dollars came in already this year, we are over 85.5 million
Right.
without the Summer Haven project. So the department was kicking in extra dollars out of our operating budget to pay for those extra costs. So that money we are going to forward, we haven't pulled it out of HURF, that we're gonna pull that drawdown as we need it. So if this project doesn't move forward now, we will pull that as that project moves forward. So the dollars will follow the project into next fiscal year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it may be sometime in the June, July.
Yeah, we're
Time
hoping
frame.
we're hoping to have it out
Okay,
earlier.
yeah, I know, we got a lot of interest. So I've got, on your coming soon slide,
Yes.
okay, so I'm new to the committee, and I remember reading something about a year or two ago where we've kind of designated collectors and arterials, some major and minor, and we have a different methodology of looking at arterial and collectors versus local roads, which we do the worst first. Can you just give a brief overview, and maybe for some of the newer people like myself, what the methodology is for the major arterial? And kind of explain what, or the arterial collector, and then explain what a minor and major are, and does some of the minors get thrown in with the locals or something like that, or how does that work?
Yes, sir. So there's a lot to unpack there. So just to start off with the kind of the big picture, the arterial collector network is chosen on a benefit cost ratio criteria. So our Street Saver program can calculate benefit cost for each of those roads, and we rely on that to create that ranked list of which roads to do, which will give us the best bang for our buck. And so we start with that list and work our way through until we get to the dollar amount that we've designated for that year. As far as what's considered arterial collector, there is arterials, which are obviously our major roads. There's the collectors, the major collectors, which are typically the ones that run in between subdivisions off the arterial network. And then some of the local or the minor collectors can be those small segments of road that enter into the subdivision. We do take some latitude in there as far as the benefit cost, so that when we do the local subdivision, if that local subdivision is triggered, even if that minor collector, that entrance road into that subdivision is not picked up that year as part of the benefit cost, we roll that into the package so that we are doing kind of a holistic approach to that subdivision. We don't want to go in and improve all the local roads and then have a really bad entrance road into the subdivision. That carries a lot of the traffic for that subdivision, so it just makes sense to get that taken care of all at the same time.
Okay, so, Mr. Chair, one final thing. So last week, the county administrator sent a memo to the El Tour de Tucson folks. She had a meeting with the El Tour de Tucson folks. And there was one section of road in the Green Valley area, Continental, that's rated poor.
Correct.
And so I did a little bit of kerplunking, looking at some of the maps and stuff. So the PCI rating, and it's a minor arterial, is a 50. Okay, and I counted at least a dozen roads in the Green Valley area that were either minor collectors, major collectors, or not classified. I'm not sure what that means, but.
Unclassified typically means that it's a local road.
Okay, which are still failing in a failed thing. So what is the process then to make sure that those collectors, the cost-benefit analysis leans more towards getting those fail roads, and the people down there in Great Valley are concerned, waiting decades, and some of them, for these roads to get repaired, where they have much more use than you do out on Continental, west of the CPAC. So, concern is, are there roads in their local area, thing they shop and work and commute every single day, and then even going up to Madeira Canyon recreational area, Madeira Canyon Road sees a lot of traffic. You may not have a lot of houses out there, but you get traffic going up there 365 days a year, where you don't have that kind of traffic on Continental. So I just want to make sure that some of that stuff is taken into consideration before a road that has a 50 PCI bumps them.
It is two different pots of money for the local and the arterial collector.
Right.
So arterial collector will never bump a local off the list. There is some balancing that just goes on, just in general. Like for instance, Avra Valley that we're doing this year, where we had a PCI in some portions of it that were really bad, and then another PCI in the middle that wasn't as bad. Typically, we try to take a holistic approach, especially if we're going to be out there, because of the distance and the mobilization, that we try and do the whole road at the same time to provide some nice long segments. The same thing goes with the next year, where we're balancing out the pros and cons. And so we do use the benefit cost ratio. We also try to make sure that we're catching some of those really bad ones. Sometimes the roads that get deferred one year then become the first. We make sure that those are the first ones that we select next year, regardless of the benefit cost ratio, so that we're not continually pushing things off. There is definitely a balancing act, and the benefit cost ratio is a good starting point for us, but we do not just rely on that to make those decisions. There's a lot of engineering judgment that goes into that, because of it will show up with just some short segments that don't make sense to do on their own. So.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. Michelle, maybe in your next presentation, you can give us an example of cost benefit and your decision process. I think that will help Tom and the other members of the committee better understand how we're going about this. And, as our constituents ask us, then we're more informed. I get lots of questions when I'm out, and I answer on behalf of the committee the progress that's being made. So I think it would help us a lot.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Michelle.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, John.
Yeah, Michelle, I've got a question about the curb ramps and the Portland cement concrete work that we've been doing.
Yes, sir.
Are most of those on the arterial collector or the local system?
Most of them are local.
Local, that's what I would have thought. And since you mentioned that, we just got reminded that we're talking about two pots of money, the arterial collector and the local. Do you have a proportion of that budget, the local budget, that's consumed by the curb ramp portion?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I can definitely pull together that
substantial?
information.
I've been curious about that for a long time, because, I don't know how much we anticipated doing this much concrete work when we try to estimate road pavement improvements,
Yeah, I haven't looked at the specific breakdown. I can definitely pull that information together for next presentation.
I would be interested, yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
One of the challenges that we have is it's not very consistent. It depends on the neighborhoods that we go into, because federal guidelines say that if we mill and pave, it's considered a reconstruction, and therefore it triggers the need to do the ADA. So any place that we're doing the milling and paving is considered an ADA upgrade
So we
as a
don't have
necessity.
an inventory going forward at all then about?
We have a tracking of what's there, but until that package comes up, we don't take a look at the individual costs. And
Okay, thanks.
That's helpful. Any other questions? Thank you, Michelle. Juanita? Okay, Tom, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Michelle, I just wanted to kind of follow on to what Tom was saying earlier about the Although I don't think we took any official action to recommend it, there seemed to be quite a bit of support from this committee regarding fixing the one or two roads, as I recall, that El Tour had still needed upgrading in order to provide a safe, smooth surface for its event. And it may be the one that was just mentioned in Green Valley that is a PCI 50, and perhaps another one. But just wanted to make sure. I know the department has been coordinating with those folks, but would like to see what your conclusions are when the 23 program comes to us.
Sounds good. We will definitely be addressing that.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Tom. Any other questions? All right, what I'd like to do now, and thank you, Michelle,
Thank
is
you.
refer to the memorandum that Director Olivares sent to the county administrator on April 5th, and then the response from the county administrator. I think really this memo demonstrates, these two memos demonstrate what a fantastic job our transportation staff is doing on the program. We're making great progress. You compare it to other jurisdictions, I think we owe them a little some applause. Good job. So, I mean, you know, small things count, but these are adding up. And so we do appreciate the work of all the staff. But thank you very much, Michelle. And Director Olivares, thank you for your leadership. This is really great. You don't see this sort of thing all that often, so it's good news. All right, back to the agenda. RTA update, Catherine Skinner and Tom McGovern.
Good afternoon, Chairman Verberg and committee that's here in real life and online. I'm Catherine Skinner, Deputy Director with the Department of Transportation, and I don't have slides, so you'll just be hearing my voice, I guess, if you're online. Here's our update on where we are with RTA Next as of now. On April 4th, the RTA Citizens Advisory Committee had their first meeting since May of 2021, and that included all of the new members that we've discussed previously here. So about a third of the membership was new starting this last month. This initial meeting that they had covered a lot of the ground rules and background for what this committee's charged with doing and where they've gotten so far in the past few years of meeting. There was a quite lively discussion with the committee members, but they covered a lot of ground. The items that they did cover in this initial meeting were open meeting law and what that means on a committee. I know all of you have been through the open meeting law training as a part of this committee. They are rules that are new to a lot of people that haven't served on this kind of body. They also reviewed the RTA revenues for the existing RTA plan, as well as looking forward to RTA Next and what they might anticipate in terms of revenues over that new program. And then they reviewed and discussed the scopes and costs for the major roadway projects that had already been submitted to the RTA for RTA Next. Those submissions mostly came in the summer of 2020, so it will take some refreshing for that committee to get back up to speed and see where that fits in the grand scheme of transportation. And then they discussed what they wanted to look a lot of the future with future agenda items. So there's a lot of ground they'd like to cover, reevaluating what the RTA priorities might be, revisiting the schedule and time of meeting, just group dynamics of the committee. So there'll be a lot of groundwork that they'll cover. And their next meeting is scheduled for May 2nd at 1 o'clock. They're available online if anybody would like to observe those meetings, and they will be covering a lot of the items that the committee requested for their next meeting. Also in RTA news, the Technical Management Committee Project Review Task Force, for which Mr. John Bernal is on that committee, a co-chair of that committee. They've been reviewing a lot of the existing RTA projects. Change the scope, either make it a bigger scope or downscope the project. So recommendations for those first projects that have been reviewed, which include the City of Tucson's First Avenue project from Grant to River Road, the county's First Avenue project from Orange Grove to Ina Road, and then it's really a joint project on Silver Bell Road from El Camino del Cerro up to Ina Road. Those recommendations should be forthcoming soon. one of the options that are being looked at and discussed are moving some of these projects that have a change in scope to the RTA Next plan. So there'll be a little bit of a nexus between what the Citizens Advisory Committee will be discussing and, of course, the Project Review Task Force. Mr. Tom McGovern is online. He's, of course, the chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee for the RTA. So I don't know if you want to step in, Tom, and give an additional update.
Thanks. Excuse me. Thanks, Catherine. Only correction might be that this month we will move back to in person and be also hybrid and still viewable by the community, as you said. The time is a little different, though. It's back to our traditional 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock time frame. And as she said, we will be looking backwards and forwards kind of at the same time for some period of time here as we look back at much of the foundational and historical work that's done by the committee, such as the guiding principles and other documents that were prepared, now a couple of years ago. And then we'll also be looking forward at projects. So for the next several meetings, probably we'll have things on the agenda that go back in time and probably debates about some of those issues as new members get their first chance to contribute to what's in each of those elements, those kind of guiding principles that we have, as well as starting the hard work of paring down just name projects of $4.5 billion to perhaps less than $2 billion. In fact, maybe as low as $1 billion, depending on what the committee and board decide should be set before the voters in terms of the amount of sales tax. It should be renewal of a half cent or perhaps up to even another full half cent beyond that to the full penny. Those are all questions to be answered, and much of it has to do with the board and policy that they send down to us, as well as interaction between the CAC and the technical management committees Catherine mentioned. So lots of action coming, and I expect another library meeting on Monday. I must watch YouTube TV.